Okay, guys, I have my baby here. I'm feeding her because it's just what I have to do. She's here and I have to take care of her and get this done. So you're going to get to meet her after she's finished her bottle. And Merry belated Christmas, Merry Saturnalia, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, happy. Hope you had a great holiday. And I've always had mixed feelings about holidays ever since I was a young kid, because I always kind of suspected there was some lies about the holidays, and as time has progressed into adulthood, I've learned that yes, that is true. I think it started when I learned Santa Claus wasn't real. And I learned that very young because my suspicious mind was looking to find out, okay, is Santa real? And the first giveaway was that my mom's handwriting was on all the boxes, okay? Giveaway number one. And then we lived in a small house. I open up my bedroom door, and there my mom is wrapping the presents under the tree. And I think I was 4 or 5 years old. So that's what created all my suspicion around the holidays. And yeah, now we're being told that Santa Claus is actually Satan, was originally Nimrod, all this stuff, which could very well be true. And you know, I don't know. I don't know if Jesus existed or not. That's just my stance. I think he's more of a symbol. But then there are people who have really dissected the Bible over the years, like Jordan Maxwell. And he says that Jesus is actually Lucifer. And anyway, whatever the case may be, I think it's important to still enjoy normie holidays with friends and family, and just, you know, not everything has to be about spreading the truth. People will learn when they're ready. And then as far as having children, you know, you're faced with, okay, are we gonna celebrate Christmas if we're not quote unquote Christian? And yeah, I think that you gotta let kids be kids. So that's sort of my take on the holidays and religion and this time of the year. The New Year is another one that's a farce, because the New Year really is supposed to start in the spring, during Aries season. But anyway, I still am all about eating Christmas cookies and enjoying time with friends and family and giving gifts. So I hope that you really enjoyed your holiday. On this episode, we're going to be talking about this H-1B visa thing. That's what I want to start off with. And instead of making you wait for my sketch, I'm going to throw it in right away, just in case you're new to my show. And I figured this is a great time for you to get to know me quicker straight out of the gate. So let's dive into my funny bones.
Hello? This is Randy. How may I assist you today?
Hi, yes, my name is Kristen Bidding, and I'm calling about my 2021 MacBook Air. It's not holding a charge.
Yes, I see. Have you tried multiple outlets and chargers to see if that is a problem?
Yes, the outlets and the chargers work with other devices.
Okay, ma'am, I see. I see your computer problems. Before we start, I need your social security number, tax ID number, passport number, home address, and mother's maiden name.
What for?
USA Tech Pros must verify you are a US citizen before we proceed. Also, let me read you your terms and conditions. They are as follows.
I pay for a monthly subscription. That information should be on file.
No, ma'am. We still need social security number.
I don't feel comfortable with that, okay? Can you put me on the phone with a US representative?
I am American, born and raised. Mobile, Alabama, to be exact.
Okay, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and just cancel my subscription?
Listen, you stupid American bitch. You give me your passport number or else.
Okay, this is obviously a goddamn scam, and I'm not one to get scammed. First, you ask for my social security number, then you ask for my passport information. This is crazy. I'm reporting you to my credit card company and canceling my subscription. USATechPros.com, more like PajitTechFailures.com.
Due to the nature of your mean calls, I am going to charge your account $6,187.67 to be exact, for being a mean bad girl. Thank you for calling USA Tech Pros and have a nice day. I hope you don't mind that I do accents sometime. I hope you're not offended. I like to do accent. Oh God. Okay. All right. Daisy, let's make let's see. You got milk on your face, but it's okay. She's 3 weeks old, and this is Daisy, and this is her first time on camera. Say hi. Say hi. Okay. She's going to hang out until she cries, and we'll cut when she really causes a fuss. But this H-1B visa, I have mixed feelings about it because I've had a lot of friends over the years who are from other countries who immigrated here on work visas, and some of them later got their green card and stuff, but most of them have been extremely hardworking people with a tremendous amount of respect for American culture and appreciation for freedom, and I love them. So I'm not against immigration, especially given that I've been focusing on anarchy lately. So being against immigration would kind of conflict with that ideology. But I do think that this H-1B visa is a precursor to this legal immigration that is really not going to be that much different than illegal immigration, because they're two roads leading to the same place, and that is to take jobs away from Americans, to give them to immigrants, and eventually turn those jobs that immigrants have into AI jobs. Think about how many times you have called an American company and you speak to an American rep, and then a few months or a few years later you call again and it's outsourced to India or some other East Asian country or wherever, and there's language barriers and things that actually are difficult to communicate. And then a few months or a few years after that, you can't even get through to a person. Airlines are a great example of that. Well, they want that. That's exactly where all jobs are going. It's not just call services and customer service. They want all jobs going towards AI. So the first step that they need to do to take the jobs away from Americans is to give them to immigrants. And the people who are getting mad on the right about this, they're not really realizing that
they're not thinking 10 steps ahead. They're only thinking one step ahead. And they need to realize that this is just a precursor to AI jobs, basically. Of course it is. Elon Musk has something to do with it. Hello. Another thing when it comes to India seems to be the main focus when it comes to this H-1B visa because of the tech jobs. I have a feeling that India is being talked about for more than just one reason, and it's more than just this immigration visa. So if all goes according to plan, and the BRICS countries, which are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, plus a few others, including Iran. If those countries are supposed to take over the West, and we're going to have conflict with them, whether it's through the monetary system or through all-out war, eventually the dust is going to settle, right? And if they want a one-world government, then there's going to need to be a country that unifies the East and the West. And my bet is that that country is going to be India. Because it can't, there's too much conflict with Iran and Russia and China. So it's not going to be one of them. But I think it's going to be another one of the BRICS countries. And if we're promoting bringing Indian workers here, then I really suspect that it's going to be India. Another thing is, so many people out there are waking up to this censorship of anybody critical of Israel getting censored. And I think that the powers that be are going to make this immigration policy meld with the anti-Semitism stuff, and I think that India is going to be a front for criticism of Israel, and they're going to kind of take the blame, and the controllers of social media are going to say that it's racist to question this H-1B visa, and then they're going to get pinned in with all of the anti-Semites. It's actually pretty genius if you think about it. And then it takes the blame off of the Zionists. And if you research, and I'm starting to research, I don't know a lot about it, but I'm starting to look into it, the Israel-India connection, and it seems that Israel hides behind India oftentimes, and I think that that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think India is going to take the blame for a lot of things, and even though, I'm sitting here making jokes about Indians, it's not meant to be derogatory or hateful by any means. But I think India is going to take the blame for a lot of things over the next few years, and it's going to make Americans dislike that group of people, unfortunately. So that's my prediction with the India stuff. It's interesting too because we're seeing a lot more Indian influence in politics, like with Vivek Ramaswamy and J.D. Vance's wife. It just seems like there's a little bit more of an Indian presence now, and I don't think that that's by chance. I think that this is all happening according to a plan, and I have a feeling that the Indians in our government are going to be very closely linked to the Zionists. So that's something to look out for. Also, though it looks like we're going to have an influx of legal immigration and a decline in illegal immigration, you have to remember that part of the New World Order is to make the United States more of a melting pot than it already is, which means a diminishing white population. I have no issues with interracial anything, but historically speaking, larger white populations equals more freedom. That's just historical fact. You can go back in the history books, or maybe not the history books because they're all full of lies anyway, but you do your research and you'll see that it's the white societies that tended to be more free, and they're changing that purposely. Though foreigners have a tremendous amount of respect usually for freedom, sometimes they don't fight for it as hard because they never had it to begin with in the first place, wherever they're from. So I think that this is all by design. Additionally, Trump is talking about making Canada a 51st state, buying Greenland. Hello, we are bankrupt. So this is diminishing borders, all according to a one world government. I mean, that's where this is going, and it's happening fast. It is happening so fast. I think all of this H-1B visa stuff is gonna stoke warranted questioning by the masses that the controllers are going to say it's racist, when it's really not about race, it's about freedom. I also think that there has to be a number of Indian people out there who have some sort of animosity toward the British Empire, and maybe see what's happening as a form of karma of some sort toward the UK and the United States. And maybe they feel that it's time for them to be in a higher position of power than the West. In some ways, I can understand that, but it's definitely not the answer to a free society, I don't think. And think about it: if America gets knocked down on the peg of authority in the world, and the BRICS countries really do take over, it really pins the pressure on them, and makes them look like the bad guys, when really, who's behind them? Well, you could say it's the Jesuits, the Zionists, the black nobility, and then who's behind them? It's a dark force operating from the unseen. So people still aren't going deep enough. They're going to just point to India and BRICS. And then, there are the people who have been critical of Israel and Zionism, but it's multiple factors happening at once. And it's actually, I mean, when I sit here and I speak about it, it's actually pretty hard to describe because there are so many moving parts to it. Another thing that I've been thinking about lately is I've noticed a large portion of the awakened or awakening white population tend to be moving toward like almost this Amish like lifestyle, and or living off grid, or learning how to be more self-sufficient. That's all good and fine, and I support that. And I can even say in some ways I've become more like that. Right now, me and my family are living between Nevada and Nebraska, and we haven't fully moved to Nebraska yet, but we're part-time. Like right now, that's where I am. And we made that decision to kind of slowly make this transformation because we see the way the world is headed, and we think that this is the best move for our family. But I have mixed feelings about that too, because if you really, create this self-sustainable, off-the-grid type life for yourself, then chances are you're not going to be making that much money. You're not going to have like a real change in the way the world operates. So it's tricky, and I think that all of these, we have all of these Asian kids in colleges, and now it's more women than men. And even though I don't think college is completely necessary, I went to art school, and looking back on it, even though I did love it, it was kind of a waste of money. I could have learned a lot of those things on my own, and especially now with the way the internet is, like the internet can be your college. But if we don't have enough high functioning white kids in college, then we might have to end up taking lower paid blue collar jobs. But then again, there are some blue collar jobs that pay more than white collar jobs. So it's kind of a tricky thing. But I don't think that like living completely off grid like an Amish person is necessarily the answer. I think we have to still have a place in the emerging landscape when it comes to the workplace. Because if we don't, then AI is going to possibly take over our jobs even faster than we thought. Elon is also, ironically, I noticed, I'm like, interesting that India still uses a caste system and believes that you're born into these classes because of your karma. And I'm sorry, I do not agree with that whatsoever. And it's funny because X is sort of becoming like a caste system in and of itself. If you're somebody who speaks about the things that I'm talking about now, you're an untouchable. And if you are talking about the things that Elon's talking about, then you're at the top of the caste system. It's pretty obvious. It's like anything that Elon talks about is automatically promoted algorithmically if somebody else talks about that same thing. It's just, I'm sorry, it's getting disgusting to watch. And it's a catch-22 because it's like I still like sharing information on there, more than the other platforms because there is an element of like you feel like you're in the mix. But over the past 2 weeks alone, and I haven't even really been posting that much. Over the past 2 weeks alone, you can see on my feed how little people are actually seeing my stuff. I mean, you go back to 2 years ago, whatever, and I would get, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 views on something, and then it was like 500, and now it's like I have I don't know, 14 or 15,000 followers on X, and 100 people see my stuff. I'm like, what? And the people who are seeing my stuff and who are liking it, it's all people who I interact with on a regular basis. So they're the only people seeing my things, and that's what happened on Facebook 4 years ago too. And I think Facebook called it community standards, and X calls it community guidelines or whatever. They're both community notes. Was it community standards on Facebook and community notes on X, whatever, I don't know. But basically it's the same freaking thing that Mark Zuckerberg was doing 4 years ago. And now accounts are getting knocked off and shut down just the way accounts were getting shut down on Facebook 4 years ago. How does anybody still think X is a free speech platform? And Alex Jones over here talking about, Elon's not doing anything wrong. Our post, I'll have to post the video. I'm gonna share the video if I can find it again. Alex said, if you're posting against the H-1B visa and your posts aren't getting likes or views, it's because nobody likes it. Dude, half of the right isn't in agreement with this stupid freaking visa. Hello? Another interesting thing about Indian and Asian culture is I've noticed that let's just say Asian culture, because I'm kind of talking about Chinese culture too, mostly Indian and Chinese culture, but it goes for some of the other countries too. When you think about spirituality, the word spirituality, a lot of times I think through ancient Indian practices and yoga and stuff like that, you think of Indian culture. And some of the most spiritually evolved people in history have been Indian or Buddhist. But then you have a portion of the population who they're very robotic. When I went to China, I would say that, and I saw it in China. I've never been to India. I know other people who have been to India, but it's like there's a very polarizing type of person who lives there. You're either very aware and evolved, or you're a full-on NPC, and there's really not much in between. Whereas in the United States, you kind of have people broke down in thirds, is what I noticed. You have people who are very, very awake or awakening or working on themselves, doing the work. They're not there yet, they're getting there, but they're looking, they're seeking. And then you have the people who, they kind of know what's going on, but they just go with the herd. And then you have the people who are the dead asleep NPCs. It's like it's broken down into thirds here. But in Asia, it's like there's barely any in the second group, And most people fall into one extreme or the other. And I find that interesting. I find that really interesting. A lot, yeah, there are a great number of evolved people and a great number of full-on NPCs that just follow orders. So why do they want that culture pushed into ours so much? It's definitely not because they want the spiritually evolved, awakened ones here. It's that they want the workers. They want the workers. They want the robotic workers here to get us to the AI jobs. So I'm talking about a specific culture that I feel has a larger portion of NPCs than they do a portion of the people who fall somewhere in between the NPCs and the awakening group. My theory is that NPCs aren't interested in changing. If they have any soul left, some of them might not have any soul at all, but let's say some of them have a little bit of a soul left. I think the goal of the technocrats is to turn these NPCs into an even lower vibrational, robotic-like life form, similar to the Greys. So I believe that the Greys are controlled by the reptilians, and they were wiped completely clean of their soul a long time ago. They're just Greys are NPCs essentially who work for the reptilians, and I think that this technocratic agenda it wants humans to become like the Greys, basically. And they want to take whatever little soul that these NPCs have left. I think that the system knows that there are people like us who they're not going to get to. And they already know that. So their focus is actually on these NPCs, regardless of where they're from. And perhaps that's why they want a certain demographic coming over here, because they're easier to get to. They're easier to control. Not because of their race or religion or anything like that, but because they have a certain type of programming. And that's why they want them here. So when it comes to NPCs, I've noticed that if we focus too much on trying to change them and get them to wake up, we're really giving our energy to something that is a bottomless pit. And you hear about things like the demiurge and Watiko and stuff. And I think that the thing that we need to watch out for is giving too much energy and thought and frustration with these people, because ultimately the NPCs, or the people who are close to being an NPC, they're holding humanity back. And it's frustrating. But if we keep focusing on that, it's going to deplete our energy, and actually it might be a form of a mind virus in ourselves by trying to change them. I think it's good to be aware that people like that exist. But we can't wallow away and just blame everything on them. That's not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is doing the inner work on an individual level and sharing our knowledge, hoping that the people that are looking for it find it. That's all we can do. And if we have that mindset, it makes things a little bit lighter and a little bit easier, because if I start thinking about how many dead asleep people there are in the world, that can spiral me into a not great place. But I do think it's important to acknowledge that it exists, because then there are these people who, like, they have their head in the clouds, and they are talking about how people like us are black pilled. No, you don't have to be black pilled, but we do have to watch how much energy we give to things. And these NPCs, I think that they just like the reptilians and possibly the greys, in one form or another, feeding off of our negative energy, so do the NPCs, because they are an extension of that consciousness. So we have to be really careful of that. And I think that's something that isn't talked about enough. If enough of us realize that, then the vibration of the world is naturally going to raise, and the matrix is going to glitch. It's going to glitch out, and these entities are not going to be able to be here anymore, or we aren't. So I always say it's all good. Like, I've kind of touched on this before, but this is just a new way I'm coming at it with the greys and the NPCs and the reptilians. But it will glitch. So let's not focus on the people who are dead asleep, who are holding us back. I know it's annoying, they are, but if we focus on that, we're not going to get ahead. So let's keep moving. So some ways that we can, when we start to feel like we're getting drained by just interacting on an everyday basis with these non-player characters, here are some things that we can focus on to help us raise our vibration and become untouchable. Have a sense of purpose. Be grateful to have your basic needs met. Don't feel lonely or depressed. Get yourself out of that, whatever you have to do, whether it's going to exercise, or even if you have just one friend or one person in your life that you really love, be grateful for that. Be authentic. That, for me, is number one. I just think that we have so much more of an impact on others when we are our authentic selves. And leverage your spiritual knowledge in the right way. For instance, whatever it was, 4 or 5 months ago, I decided that I was gonna make a YouTube page and talk about, or YouTube channel, whatever, and talk about these things. I was holding myself back because actually I entered this space, not my goal of getting involved in alternative media actually wasn't to be in front of the camera at all. I was following a lot of people in this space for a long time while I was still in LA acting and producing, and this space was just something I took a side interest in for a long time, but I never saw myself actually getting involved in it. And then when COVID happened and I became really outspoken about everything, I decided, okay, well, I have to leave. I have to leave the entertainment industry. This is not going to work. So my goal and mission was to be helping other people in this space on the production side of things. So if you're wondering how I even got involved with Iconic, it's that I produced 3 projects. It was the one with Brad Nelson, The Body Code was the first one that I did. Then I did the one with Jason Harrison. It was Self Mastery Science. And I did one with Melissa Buffington, called New Earth 101. So I produced all 3 of those projects. And my intention of being in this space was actually to be helping other people get their careers moving, and helping other people with their documentaries. So I never even intended to sit here and do this, but I was leveraging my spiritual knowledge in that way, and here I am. And I would rather be talking to a small pool of people who want to listen to me talk about this stuff rather than just throwing my stuff out on YouTube. So that's how I ended up here, and I think that doing that in whatever way that works for you, even if it takes time to kind of find out what your thing is, that is so rewarding. There's no price that you can put on that. And that will give you the fuel to keep going, which is what we need right now in order for the world to be a better place. The last thing you want to avoid, and I speak from experience with this, and I think other people on a spiritual mission can speak from experience on this, is avoid sex with NPCs or NPC-like people, because there's an exchange of energy there, and they will drain your energy in one way or another, and that's something to just really be aware of. And I say that I think the United States, for instance, is sort of broken up into 3 categories of awake, semi-awake, sleepers. But sometimes, especially when you're younger, like in your 20s, you can't tell the difference right away. As you get older or as you do the work, you can see it a lot faster. But for people in their 20s who are in that phase of their lives, experiencing and dating and doing all of this stuff, it's easy to let NPCs in that way, and then you find your life in chaos and you wonder why. Well, I can tell you that's why. So that's my talk on NPCs. Okay. I have a new theory when it comes to Starlink. Okay, when I was going through one of my shifts, there was a lot of strange events that played out. I kind of touched on it last episode with Carrie, that when I was going through one of my shifts, my voice started changing, and I had it was like a spasm thing that was happening, sort of like Robert Kennedy Jr., and I couldn't figure out why. And then when I did the work, I figured out why, and I felt like I had an entity or some entities attached to me because they wanted to suppress my voice. And at the time, this was a few years. This was like 3 years before COVID, something like that. It was before COVID. I had no idea that I would be sitting here doing this type of work. And I was in the beginning phases of starting to be like, sort of in the back of my head or in my subconscious that maybe my path wasn't to be in the entertainment world, or in that way, but I couldn't figure out what else I was supposed to do. But there was a natural calling towards this type of work, and I was listening to a lot of other people, in the spiritual world. I guess you could say in my like base knowledge started in my late teens, early 20s, when I got into like Deepak Chopra and Abraham Hicks, who now I have a lot of questions about, and Deepak Chopra is a complete fraud. But some of these are launching points in your evolution, and they were for me. And I was always kind of like, maybe there's something there for me as a calling or a career, or I don't know. But it was never like a strong voice that told me that was the trajectory for me. And now that I'm here doing this type of stuff, I see why my voice was suppressed. And I felt like I was kind of being watched, but not in a like schizo paranoid way, more of like somebody knows what I'm capable of and what direction I'm going in, and I can feel I'm being watched. So was it the archons watching? I don't know. Was it military, CIA watching? I don't know. Was it agents in our dimension working for the archons, or who? I have no idea. I still, to this day, I'll never know. But I'll always feel like during that time I was really starting to figure things out. So my new theory on Starlink is that if you have a certain frequency coming off of you, that Starlink is going to be able to basically pinpoint higher vibrational people or places on a map that are higher vibration. Because let's face it, places have vibration too. Think about what happens in Gaza. That is a very low vibrational place. And I think that can be measured. And I think Starlink is going to be able to measure that, not only in towns and cities, but like directly to your home. What energy are you giving off into the world? And if you're a quote unquote starseed, or whatever you want to call these higher vibrational people who are trying to make a change in the world, whatever label you want to give it. Sometimes I don't like using the word starseed or indigo children and things like that, because they're misinterpreted, and I also think it makes people feel like they're better than other people, which is not my intention. All I'm saying is we emit a frequency off of us, and I think that Starlink is going to be able to tap into that and see it easier if they don't already do that. Yeah, I think especially for actually the people who are most in danger with Starlink are higher vibrational people who were vaccinated, or they fall for something. They're gonna have, even if it's, if you fall for getting the freaking Neuralink, I don't know if you can be higher vibrational. But definitely there are people out there who they got vaccinated because they have to pay bills and they have a family of 4 that they need to feed. Like there are logical reasons why people got vaccinated. I'm the personality type that I would fight to the death. I would not do it. I would live in complete poverty. I would do whatever I have to do to survive. But not everybody is like that, and I fully accept that. And I know that there are people out there who were vaccinated who are higher vibrational people that need to watch out for this, not only from a hive mind perspective, but from a frequency perspective. So that's my take on that. I think that yeah, they're going to be able to read our auras easier with the technology that is coming out. We focus so much on the hive mind, the transhumanism, and all of that. But even for completely organic humans, I still think that this is going to affect us from a surveillance standpoint, and not surveillance of just being watched like my phone is watching me or my computer is watching me, not like that, but literally the energy that we emit, they're going to be able to read that easier. So that's my theory on that. And the last thing that I'm going to close on is, it looks like they're trying to roll out the bird flu thing again, or a version of COVID. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But I'm seeing on the news, like I was getting my nails done the other day, and I was seeing on the news that what kind of animal was it? Cows or wolves? I forget. I don't even remember what kind of animal it was, but said that they died in a zoo because of bird flu. It's like, it was so obvious that it was completely fake. But if they're rolling that out on the news, then they're at least considering using that card right now. So we have to know that that's a possibility. And the drone thing, I know that I'm pretty sure that I was having the baby when the drone thing started, or maybe it was the week after. It was whenever that happened. I wasn't around to talk about this, but initially I thought, okay, they're doing Project Bluebeam. They're starting to roll that out, and I was like, and then maybe they're gonna blame this on foreign threat to start World War III. But really, actually, I think what it is now that the hype has kind of died out pretty quickly, I think they're just testing how we're going to react to having drones in the sky all the time, and weird government crafts just around all the time. I think that they just want to see how we react to it, because that's part of the plan. That's part of the plan. In a few years, our packages probably are not going to be delivered by Amazon drivers anymore, unless they're really heavy, but they're going to have little drones come and drop them off to us, and the automated vehicles and stuff like that. They're seeing what we will accept. And I think it was just, now that it's kind of fizzled out, I think it's just a test to see how we'll react. So should be interesting to see what else happens with that. Maybe they'll try it again, but I thought it was pretty funny that it's just like, it was the big hype for about a week, and then out of nowhere it's gone. So that's what I have for this week. And next week I'm hoping to get a remote viewer on who I've been following for a long time. He is extremely accurate, and since it's the new year time, I figured January would be a great month to have him on to talk about his accurate predictions in 2024 and what he sees for 2025. So hopefully that'll be next week. If it's not next week, it'll be the week after. And I look forward to hearing from you guys and your comments. And say bye, Daisy. We love you all. All right, guys. See you next week.
USA Tech Pros must. USA Tech Pros must. USA Tech Pros must verify you are a US born citizen.